I'm Dr. Angela Moore, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create a follow-on rota for next year. So the first thing you want to think about is when is the best time to produce and publish next year's rota. In general, I would think about doing it about 3 months before the end of the year. This means that you have a lot of time to produce it and let people know their shifts so that they can start planning their holidays. If you are using a holidays included shift pattern, then you will need to issue it at least 3 months, preferably 6 months, prior to the end of the year. This is because people need to know the dates for their holiday slots. If you are using a holidays excluded shift pattern, then you can leave it a little longer, so between 1 and 3 months prior to the end of the year. At the end of the year, you should always have a shift pattern review. This should just be a quick meeting between the team leaders and management to assess how the shift pattern has gone and if there are any changes that need to be made. This shift pattern review should take place at the same time as you are creating next year's rota. That way, if you want to implement any new ways of working, you can incorporate them into the design. Typical things to think about are the shift pattern. Is it working for the company and the shift workers? If not, then you need to think about what sort of pattern would work better. Holiday management. Did last year's process work, or do we need another procedure? Sickness and absence management. Again, are the current procedures working? Teams. Do we have the right skills mix in each team? Do we need to move people about? If everything worked well last year, then the chances are you don't have to do anything different. You can use the same shift pattern. If, on the other hand, the current process isn't working for you, then this is the ideal opportunity to try something different. Let's assume that everything is working well. Management is happy, the operation is running to budget, and the workload is being covered. The shift workers like the arrangement and are happy. So all that's left is for you to create next year's rota. Now, there are 2 types of shift pattern. One is based on a self-contained year. Everyone works their correct hours, and the shift pattern is based around 365 days. The other type of shift pattern is a repeating pattern. Over the year, no one works their exact contracted hours. They oscillate around the average. The shift pattern will be based over so many weeks, and over that time period, everyone will work the same number and type of shifts. Then the shift pattern repeats indefinitely. If your shift pattern is based on a complete year, then you need a complete year to copy. If your shift pattern is a repeating shift pattern, then you can just use the shift pattern and copy it out for a complete year. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate both techniques. So here is a shift pattern. It's at the end of the year. So the original shift pattern is lost, what with all the holidays, sickness, shift swaps that have occurred during the year. This shift pattern is for 6 people. The pattern itself is a 6-week repeating pattern. Originally, they would have worked 2 weeks of 12-hour day shifts according to the 2-3-2 pattern. Then they worked 2 weeks of morning shifts, Monday to Friday. Then they worked 2 weeks of night shifts according again to the 2-3-2 shift pattern. Then the pattern repeats. This means that there is one person on 24/7, and then there are 2 people who come in Monday to Friday on shorter 8-hour shifts. This type of shift pattern happens a lot. Companies need a 24/7 presence, but the majority of the workload is still based around office hours. The office hours shifts, however, are there to cover for holidays and absences, whereas the 12-hour shifts cannot be dispensed with. So whenever somebody has booked a holiday on the 12-hour shifts, then the shift is covered by the person on the morning shift. This means that while the morning shifts are desirable, they are not required every day. The work may be transferred to another time. So this shift pattern is set up for 2018. We want to create 2019 shift pattern. Where do we start? This shift pattern is very simple. We can either set up the shift pattern from scratch again, or we can copy last year's shift pattern as a complete year. In this case, creating the whole shift pattern from scratch is the easier of the 2 options. So I'm going to start with that. So first off, you want a blank copy of VisularotaX. Then you need to enter the names of the people on the shift pattern. This is done on the Staff Records tab. Then, in the Information tab, you enter the shifts, start and finish times, and the start date of the new shift pattern. In this case, it will be the 1st of January 2019. Once you have entered all the background information, you are then ready to create next year's shift pattern. So, we need to look at 2018 shift pattern. Where did it end? Who was working what shifts? Fortunately, the shift pattern is already entered for the first few weeks of 2019. So while the calculations for 2018 do not include these shifts, we can transfer them over. Hence, we copy the shifts from the 2018 rota onto the 2019 rota. There, now we have our starting point for 2019. Since this shift pattern is based around a 6-week cycle, we can expand it out for the whole of 2019. So, in cell BI34, which is Sam's first blank cell, I enter equals BB35. This coincides with the cell Claire was working the week before. In cell BI35, I enter equals BB36, which is what David was working the week before. In cell BI36, I enter equals BB37, which is what Tim was working the week before. In cell BI37, I enter equals BB38, which is what Laura was working the week before. And in cell BI38, I enter equals BB39, which is what James was working the week before. Now I come to James, and he will be working the shifts that Sam worked in the week before. So I enter equals BB34 into cell BI39. Then I highlight the shifts in column BI and drag them out for the rest of the year. All of the cells are highlighted, so I copy them using Ctrl+C and then paste the values. This means that instead of the cells equaling another cell, they now only contain the value for that cell, in this case D, N or M. I have now a complete shift pattern for 2019. So let's tick that off the list. Have we finished? No. Now we need to check to see if there were any holiday hours to carry over from 2018. So we go to the 2018 shift pattern and look in the Report tab. In column Q is the number of unscheduled holiday hours. They are all negative and less than one whole shift. Therefore, everyone took the correct amount of holiday in 2018. That's great. There's no carryover. So let's tick that off the list. So what else is there to check? Well, what about shift swaps and ensuring that everybody worked the correct hours in 2018? To do this, we need to go back to the Report tab in 2018. Let's have a look at the banked hours in column O. Oh dear. Tim has worked 21 hours too many in 2018, as his banked hours is negative. What can we do? Well, first, we need to have a look at 2018 shift pattern and see if we can take any shifts off him between now and the end of the year. Well, if we were back in November, Tim was working M shifts between the 26th and the 4th of December. Unfortunately, we left organising the shift pattern until the last minute. Now it's the 19th of December, and last week we had to ask Tim to work a lot of night shifts. It happens. Everyone needs to get all of their holiday in before the end of the year, and Tim was willing to cover. Thank you, Tim. He probably did it so that he could have Christmas off. But now we're left with a problem. There are no more M shifts to remove. What can we do? Well, we have three options. First one is to pay Tim overtime for working the 21 hours too many in 2018. This is the simplest and easiest option. However, management is afraid that this will set a precedent, and everyone will save up all their holidays until the last minute to get paid overtime next year. So what else can we do? Second option is to run short. Do we really need to have somebody there over the Christmas period? What if we gave Tim the 29th and 30th off? We could get an agency or a manager to cover, or just have no one around. Unfortunately, that's not an option either. So that leaves us with option 3. We can carry over the hours to next year and give Tim some shifts off in the new year. Great. How do we do that then? Well, we go to the Report tab, 2019 shift pattern file. Then we go to Tim's contracted hours cell, and in there you can see the calculation equals staff records 05 times 52.14. So all we have to do is add on to the end of that equation minus 21.26, since he worked slightly more than 21 hours extra in 2018. So now Tim is contracted to work 2,116.48 hours in 2019. I will also add a comment into the cell. That way later on, when I'm wondering why Tim was scheduled to work less hours in 2019, I can see that it was because he worked more hours in 2018. Now let's have a look at the banked hours. Well, they're a little all over the place now. Tim is working 9 hours too many, and Claire is working 11 hours too few. But since there's going to be shift swaps galore going on next year to cover holidays and sickness, I'm not too worried about it. Were it 50 or 100 hours in the bank, I'd be tempted to add or take away some shifts. But less than 12 hours over the whole year is nothing to worry about. Okay, so we've done the shift pattern, checked the holiday carryover, checked about shift swaps. Is the shift pattern now ready to be issued? No. We now have to check holiday requests. Are there any holiday requests for 2019 which need to be included? And yes, there are. James has requested the 1st to the 4th of January off, and Laura has requested the 1st and 2nd off. Since these are both M shifts, we can just book them off as holiday without doing any shift swaps. Okay, so now that we've done our checklist, we are ready to issue the shift pattern for 2019. Well done! Just in time for Christmas! Now I've shown you how to create a shift pattern when it repeats over a very small time frame of 6 weeks. This next example is for 6 people, and it's very similar to the last shift pattern, but now it's holidays included, and it's based around a year. So because it's holidays included, you need to do it far earlier than for a holidays excluded operation. This is because people need to know when their holidays are. Right, let's have a look at the shift pattern. Now this shift pattern looks very similar to the other holidays excluded shift pattern. There is one person on days and one person on nights, giving 24/7 coverage. There is also one person on shorter M shifts Monday to Friday. So on the holidays excluded shift pattern, we start off with one person on 24/7 and 2 people on the shorter 8-hour shifts Monday to Friday. On this shift pattern, one of the people is on the M shifts and the other person is rostered off for 10 days. And this happens every 6 weeks. So the shift pattern at first glance looks to be a 6-week repeating pattern, that we can replicate it in the same way as the holidays excluded shift pattern. They work 2 weeks of day shifts according to the 2-3-2 pattern. Then they work 1 week of M shifts, Monday to Friday. Then they work 2 weeks of night shifts according again to the 2-3-2 shift pattern. Then they have 10 days off and the pattern repeats. However, while 10 days is a nice amount of time off, it's not long enough for a 2-week break in the summer. So let's have a look and see what happens in the summer. Well, the summer starts on the 6th of June, and we can see that there is a different shift pattern used. Over the summer, everyone is rostered off in turn for 19 days. The summer ends on the 10th of September, and everyone goes back to the 6-week pattern with 10 days off. Then, if we scroll along to the 3rd of December, the shift pattern changes again. There are no more M shifts. There is still one person on 24/7, but now there are a lot of extra day shifts. This is partly to use up people's hours. As you can see, everyone is down to work the exact same number of shifts and the exact same number of hours. The shift pattern between the 3rd and 31st of December may seem random, but it's not. This shift pattern is designed so that no one has a long break. Everyone works the same number of shifts and there are spare resources. The reason for the extra resources is mainly so that if someone is sick anywhere in the year, then they can move the shifts from December to cover it. Then we are not left in the position of earning extra hours or using overtime. John, for example, is down to work 2-day shifts on the 23rd and 24th of December. If John was needed to work some shifts in May, for example, to cover sickness, we could ask John if he could cover the sickness by swapping these 2-day shifts to cover for his colleague's absence. John would then have a 9-day break over Christmas, and the sickness would be covered at no additional expense. So this shift pattern is a 365-day pattern. Everyone is scheduled to work the same number of shifts over the year. Holidays are included since they are incorporated into the shift pattern. On this rota, everyone gets 6 lots of 10-day breaks and 1 19-day break. Not a bad use for their 30 days of holiday. The holidays are spread out over the year, so they can get away for skiing in the winter, America in the spring. You could take a tour all the way around Europe. Why not take a cruise in the autumn and still spend a few weeks of the year gardening and doing up the house? Hence, everyone is very keen to find out when their holidays are next year so they can book their holidays early and grab the best bargains. Let's design 2019 rota. On the holidays excluded example in 2018 rota, it was heavily edited with shift swaps, sickness and holidays. With this shift pattern, we need a clear rota. We need the 2018 shift pattern without any shift swaps and sickness, and that's what we have. So we can look at the shift pattern and create 2019. With a 365-day rota, what is most important is the order in which the shifts roll from one year to the next. No one should work the same shifts this year as they did last year, because then they would have the same weeks of holiday, and if they were working over Christmas this year, they would be working over Christmas next year. So we need to look at the rotation. If we go to the end of the year, you can see the rotation has been set up for us. The shift pattern is already there for the first few weeks of 2019. If we compare the start of 2019 to the start of 2018, you can see that Mary works Jane's shifts in 2019. Jane works John's shifts in 2019. John works Charlie's shifts in 2019. Charlie works Lewis's shifts in 2019. Lewis works Liz's shifts in 2019. And Liz works Mary's shifts in 2019. So the pattern has already been set up and organised. Let's see what happens when we create 2019. You get a blank copy of VisularotaX, and again we need to enter the names of the people on the shift pattern. This is done in the Staff Records tab. Then in the Information tab you enter the shifts. start and finish times, the start date of the new shift pattern, and in this case, it's the 1st of January 2019. Once you have entered all the background information, you are then ready to create next year's shift pattern. Now let's look at 2018. The 1st of January 2019 is a Tuesday, so you need to copy the shifts not from the 1st in 2018, as that is a Monday, but from the 2nd in 2018 and paste them in from the 1st 2019. Let's start with Mary's shifts in 2018. These are given to Liz in 2019. There you are, Liz. Charlie's shifts from 2018 are given to John in 2019. There you are, John. Liz's shifts are worked by Lewis in 2019. There you are, Lewis. Lewis's shifts are worked by Charlie in 2019. There you are, Charlie. Jane's shifts are worked by Mary in 2019. There you are, Mary. And finally, John's shifts. They are worked by Jane in 2019. There you are, Jane. So have we finished? Is the 2019 shift pattern ready to be issued? No. As you can see, they are not all working the same number of shifts. Mary, Charlie, Lewis and Jane are all working 168 shifts in 2019. However, Liz is working 167 shifts and John is working 169 shifts. Also, they are not all working the same number of hours. Charlie is on 1,841.8 hours. Liz is on 1,834 hours. Mary and Jane are on 1,846 hours. Lewis is on 1,850.3 hours. And John is on 1,858 hours for 2019. So we need to equalise the number of shifts and the number of hours for everyone. Now this came about because 2018 started on a Monday and 2019 started on a Tuesday. So we need to address the imbalance. We need to go to the 2nd of December, which is when the shift pattern changes. The first thing we need to do is sort out the morning shifts. Lewis needs one more and Charlie needs one less. Hence, we give Lewis one on the 2nd of December instead of a day shift. And then we change a morning shift to a day shift on the 31st of December for Charlie. Now we just need to do a shift swap between John and Liz. Liz needs to work one extra day shift and John one less. If we have a look at the shift pattern, on Monday the 16th of December, John is working a day shift and Liz has a day off, so we can give that day shift to Liz. Liz is now working 5 shifts that week and John is working 2, so there is no single shifts. And everyone is now working the same number of shifts and the same number of hours. So we can issue the 2019 shift pattern. That's it, it's all done. They can now go and book their holidays during their long breaks. They don't disrupt the operation and they know that their breaks are guaranteed. Happy holidays!